Welcome to the Sutherland Report. Thank you so much for giving me your time and to sitting down with me. It is very much appreciated. Before I begin, if I could say, if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you haven't liked, then please do. I will be very, very grateful. One of the wonderful things about this is that I get to then catch up with friends, and I am catching up with a friend. And our subject tonight is to talk about my friend's recent research trip to, I'm going to pronounce it as Paganicon. Someone who, with other friends of mine, have gone to places that maybe sometimes Christians turn around and go, why are you actually going there? Well, we go there to find the information out. Like, for argument's sake, I have been to the Parliament of World Religions, and I have also been to Burning Man, one in 23, one in 24, and I've also been inside the Lucis Trust. It's all true. The enemy's at work. We need to also find out what is going on and how that then impacts our culture. So, without further ado, I will then bring on a dear friend of mine, Christina Bartlet, and we will then have that conversation. Christina, lovely to see you, and thank you so much for joining me. It's very much appreciated.
It is wonderful to see you too, Mark. It's
Thank
been a
you.
long time.
It's been a long time. Um, we met because we went to the Parliament of World Religions, and there was 11 of us there as dear friends, walking around and observing what was going on. And I think some of that could be relevant to our conversation in regard to your recent, I will pronounce it, Paganicon, and you take it wherever you want. Christina, could you describe where you've been, which is at this sort of gathering at Paganicon? Describe whereabouts this took place in America. And before anyone says the logo, I'm not promoting any occult practice. I'm just telling you that this goes on and we need to be very aware. Christina, take it away. Sorry.
And that is the logo of the official logo for Paganicon. So
Mm,
that's how I pronounce it. Some people pronounce it pagan icon, Paganicon. Uh, Pagan stan is another term that you will hear throughout there as well. There is a book somewhere about that specifically on how it became that. So the region where this takes place is in Minnesota, and
right.
Minnesota is basically in one of like the places like between Minnesota and Wisconsin. These, a lot of witches and basically people who practice the occult will go to. um,
Right.
and so for Paganicon, there's about 1,000 people here and talking with different like people are talking, they're mingling, they're seeing friends, you've got people who are writers in the sense. So one of the huge things that is here is a there's a oh my goodness, it's a book, basically a publishing
Yep.
called Llewellyn, and Llewellyn
Right.
is the publisher for all occult.
Right.
And it seems that Llewellyn, a lot of the people who speak at these conferences, is part of Llewellyn Publishing. So they're promoting books. They are teaching classes on how to fear. One of the classes this year was how the fear of love and dolls, and so how to tell if a doll is haunted, or
Wow.
how to read knuckle bones, for example. Or they're talking about different deities in the sense. So think of like this is taking your old Greek mythology, and
Mm,
they are literally taking these old gods, and they are like that, as you see within Acts, and Paul's going and talking, and they are still taking these old gods and they are performing rituals to them. They are praying to them. They are practicing, and and this is basically a place where that they can come, they can strengthen, they can get things to help their practice. And yeah, it's a very interesting place for sure.
Right, right. Um, so how many people went there? How many other people were you with um at the conference? I'm going to
So,
call it a conference or I'll call it a gathering, but
yeah.
at this place.
So there was about, I want to say 7 of us
Right.
there, including me. Yes.
And how long has this event been going on for? How many years?
Oh my gosh, it's been going on for a long time. I know
Right,
that. I don't know the exact date or anything, but it has been going on for a long time, and there can be around between 1,000 to 2,000 people that show up to this event, and it's literally a weekend.
right.
It's
As
3
much
days.
as as much as this is a deeply unpopular question to ask within certain circles, what influence would you say has Harry Potter had on this particular event?
That is actually really funny that you mentioned it.
Mm,
So last year, I actually was in a talk where, and it was like a why you do witchcraft, like what's
mm,
your why for it? And there was
mm,
this kid, and I'm gonna call him a kid because he
mm.
seemed to be like between the ages of 18 to 21,
Right,
and he literally was wearing the wizard's hat, had a wand, and he's like waving it in like a breakout session, and he was a speaker. And I was just like, "What am I in? Am I in Harry Potter?" Literally,
wow.
because of how this kid is. And then you actually will see, in the vendor room this year too, there's wands as well. So there is a, interesting little connection to it, but not as much, I would say.
Do you think that connection has had an increase, has been bigger in the past and not, as you're saying, and not so much now?
I think so, because I think you could use, in the sense, like, I've read Harry Potter, love the series, love the book. The thing is, there's a distinctive between reality versus fantasy.
Right,
And yes, there is magic being used in in the Harry Potter series. There's magic being used in this book. There's magic doing, like, they're saying spells, they're, things are happening, but that's also fantasy. It's
mm,
not reality in the sense. And so this is kind of, it's kind of blending that fantasy and reality together in the sense with Harry Potter. And it's like, ooh, maybe I am a witch in the sense. And
right,
so kind of like a little gateway in the sense
mm,
to bring you into that occult. Does
right.
that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think that is on a personal level is a deep concern that I have for it. I mean, it has within certain young people of a certain age at that time, it then meant, say, with boys, where there was always been a struggle to get boys at school to actually read, those books have then increased the reading ability. But the problem is, it's the subject matter, which is extremely real. And when you talked about someone in a Harry Potter esque, then being a speaker, I don't know what age, and then has got a wand in their hand going around the green room with it. I've got seriously huge issues with that. Um, what using the term what were the highlights? What have you come away with? What's the biggest thing you think you learned by attending there this year? What sort of hit you?
A lot of people are lost. This one was very different. So last year was a lot of, um deity work was being done. So there was last year there was so many rituals that were happening for deities. There was a ritual for Dionysus. There was a ritual for, what was it? Oh my gosh, they're like, uh Sylvia Plath. There was even one like encountering Sylvia Plath. There was one for Pan. There was one for,
Right.
like, so many. Like, and
Mm,
that's just from the top of my memory. But then you also have this year, which there wasn't really much deity work. So this year was completely different.
mm,
Um, this was basically a lot of, this one was called, Pathways to Spiritual Discovery. And
right.
so you have all these, it's kind of was just, it seemed like it was thrown together, which is really weird. Um, you have Welsh, paganism coming in, you have druidism, you have, um, fairies. fairy work, different talks and stuff. So this one was very different, and honestly, some of them felt like a therapy session. um, there
Wow.
was there was a ritual actually for transforming for LGBTQIA2S plus.
Right.
There was a grief ritual that was taking place. There was one actually on what is spirituality and what does that mean to you? So there's it so looking at that, it is very like it was kind of a it's one of those where everybody comes together and they do a lot of discussion, but the thing is, you can this place is very heavy. Everybody is taking this so seriously. Everybody is either sad, oppressed, and there is no joy. Nobody's laughing. Nobody's uh nobody's laughing, nobody's telling jokes, nothing like that. It's just very monotoned throughout the whole
Right.
thing. And interesting enough, there was drugs happening too, go figure, outside
Mm,
as well. So
mm.
like you could just smell it. And it was in like that part, it was insane.
There's a tie up here with the Parliament of World Religions and the occult, which we know of, which is huge. But I just want to give you an anecdote, and you may remember us telling you after about it, because I don't think you were there in the room. But Corinne Gore, Al Gore's
Mhm.
daughter, was part of a presentation about the I think the theological seminary that she either heads up, believe it or not, and they were talking about divesting from oil and getting rid of all the oil shares and all this. I was in the room with Carl and with another one of our group that were there, and this woman walked in and went straight up the front to speak to the person, this guy who was chairing the meeting. And Carl said to me, nudged me, and said, "Do you know who that is?" I went, no. He said, "That is one of the biggest witches in North America." And I went, "Well, what's she doing here?" And I went, that was a stupid question. What I'm trying to then illustrate is the tie up between the whole green movement, the whole Parliament and world religions, will have every single thing. Then we're getting to the whole thing with drugs, because it's something that we met at the Parliament, didn't we? And the
Mhm.
pushing for magic mushrooms and all that at the Burning Man last year. That again was another discussion. You and I are saying all this to people to try and educate them to realize that there is a full frontal attack from various different directions. Some people would call it fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional attack in so many ways. Would would you agree with that from your experience of going to the Parliament and World Religions and then going to Pagan Icon and other things that I know you see and research?
I would say so because you've got people that, like, for example, the Minnesota Temple of Satan showed up, and usually Satanists and Wiccans and all that do not cross at all. And
Wow.
so you have this group that literally is, and they kind of stayed like they didn't do any seminars or anything like that. They just kind of stayed in one of the party rooms and they just kind of made themselves known. But yeah, you've got that and Satanists and Wiccans and all that kind of going together. And actually, one of the founders from the founder of the Minnesota Temple of Satan was there during that time. And he's talking to everybody, mingling with Llewellyn and all these people, you know. There's some big wigs that come down from
Mm,
this
mm.
and they chat.
It's interesting what you're talking about the publishing. So let's throw this out. So the the UN, I could be wrong. The UN then used to have a publishing arm. It's literally called the Lucifer Trust, The Lucifer Trust publishing arm then becomes the Lucis Trust. I've been in the building in London. I'm just rather intrigued that it's a Llewellyn publishing house. There all seems there's a familiarity between certain words, and then we're jumping over to Llewellyn. I wonder why it's called that. I think that's something we'd have to research.
Yes, definitely, because it's very interesting, and everybody who speaks at this, um, and our friend Carl and I are actually talking about this. Everybody who speaks is literally has published in Llewellyn,
Right,
basically, um, or they've been there for a while. So everybody's got a book to sell. Everybody's got something. The only time I saw that it wasn't, and it was actually in the How to Read Knucklebones, was this
right,
guy literally said, "Well, I am a bad pagan because I don't have a stack of books on how to do knucklebones. I don't for you to sell. I don't have a kit of knucklebones for you to buy." And so he's like, "I'm a bad pagan."
right.
Because in every seminar, somebody has a book to sell, or they have they have a book that's coming out that they're promoting or something, and it's of course it's through Llewellyn.
Hmm. So people had gathered across America to this event. I mean, that would mean that some people have traveled quite extensively to get there, whether they're flying, whether they're driving. Did you get a feeling about that? Did you get a feeling that many people had come from across all the states?
Yeah, I actually heard that somebody came from Oregon
Right.
and ended up driving out with a friend to this event, which is crazy to think of that. So everybody comes from everywhere
Mm,
to this spot, and they
mm,
see friends from there's always people that they reoccur a lot. And I saw people that I saw from last year that were some I actually didn't talk to, but I saw because of their wardrobe and things like that. I noticed them and they were back there again. And people that I did talk to last year were there again as well. So it's a everybody comes from everywhere, and it's like the one thing that they normally do, and they just always come back more and more.
mm. Do people recognize you from the previous year?
I got recognized. And this was a person that I had actually had talked to extensively. Um and very interesting individual, and they actually told me they were like, "Well, I usually you see the professionals and stuff like that, but I was really excited to see you again and hoping that you would be here." And I always see this person. It's kind of been this trend, but I always see this person on the last day I'm going to be there.
Mm,
And
mm,
we have these wonderful conversations, and they're just they're basically they've been falling on some hard times and everything, but just also trying to there's things that they were doing that we talked about, and they're kind of like revisiting a little bit more. So it ends up being really good.
brilliant. And I don't want to hear what went on in those conversations because they're private. But if it do those conversations give you an opportunity to challenge their thinking, challenge their beliefs, and bluntly to point the way to Christ? Do they give you those opportunities?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I've had so I think this year I had like 3 or 4 different conversations with people. I had one with a vendor this year, and normally it gets hard with the vendors because they're just there for selling. And so
Mm,
this gal, she was literally sitting in the back, and so her and I just started up a conversation, and she actually doesn't believe in she's not pagan at all.
mm,
She just knows people who are pagan, and she sells her wares, and
mm,
which is a lot of her things are clothing and saris and scarves. And she's actually a she just does this, and she will put what is it, things on stones and other things to help basically, but she doesn't believe in any of the
mm.
paganism.
mm,
So her and I actually had a really interesting conversation about her beliefs and where she stands and what she's doing there. And then up in one of the party rooms, I had a conversation with uh, this gal and her husband, who they believe that the deities don't. So the Greek, basically,
mm.
the old mythology gods, basically don't have time for our petty little things. So they pray to their ancestors in the sense.
Right.
And basically we had this whole conversation about, so how do you know? They're like, well, I pray, hey, Uncle Ed, help me find my keys. And then,
Right. Right.
coincidentally, like right after that, they find the keys.
Right.
And so this is the conversations I'm having with these people. And you start talking about, well, I'm a Christian. This is what I believe. And you plant these seeds. And the thing is, it's like, you don't know what that conversation will do. Ended up
Mm.
hugging this lady, and it ended up being a really cool conversation.
And the other thing is, if you weren't there in that environment, then you couldn't have those conversations, could you?
Yeah, because you never know what a conversation will leave. And the vendor actually didn't even know I was a Christian.
Right.
Too. So it's not like I'm literally throwing the Bible down her throat.
Mm,
It's
mm,
I'm just having these conversations and making her think,
mm.
which is really
Um,
cool.
I wonder, I'm just going to ask this because I'm curious, not this year, but previous years. When uh, friends of mine, and also like with Carl, they've been to the Parliament of World Religions in the past, and we remember the first Trump administration, and there were people doing hexes, vexes, and whatever against him. Right? This isn't a political statement. This is an observation because it was happening. Um, the previous year in Pagan Icon, was there anything like that going on? Was there like a build up to go, we have to influence an election or anything like that?
No, it is basically a help yourself.
Right.
There's no advocacy happening
Mm,
at
mm,
all. It
mm.
is mostly, I think there is like maybe some, and I wanted to, unfortunately, I missed it and was unable to attend, but there was one about talking about the changes with it. There was a talk changes about um, it was called Archive. And
Right,
it's basically where all the material's coming from and going into witch talk, which is a whole thing, and becoming more the occult coming into social media in the sense. And unfortunately, I missed that talk. Really wanted to
right,
go to it, but yeah, that was. They've got a few of those little things here and there, but other than that, it's a lot of like this is self discovery and growing your practice and getting in touch with your
right,
witchiness.
right, right. I mean, I could end up saying, going, "Oh dear, it's a shame. This is not good." So, what were some of the? Can you remember what some of the seminars you actually attended?
Oh my gosh. One of them I actually just did for entertainment because I was kind of curious.
Mm,
And it was called For the Fear of this is one of those like really kind of it was called For the Fear of Love and Dolls. And
right,
it was literally how to tell if a doll is haunted talk.
right.
And this gal basically she is a doll restorator
Mm,
and basically said that you have to feel the doll and if it's good energy or bad energy to you.
mm,
And then if it's good energy, then you can take it home and unknowing if it's going to be haunted or not. Also,
got
don't
you.
buy haunted dolls online, all those things. And she basically said, move your dolls, talk to your dolls, all these different things, and treat them like they're actual people. And I'm just sitting in here and to be honest, there were some parts I was trying hard not to laugh
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she took it very you're trying to be
Mm,
respectful.
mm,
Because she really does believe these things, but
mm.
also I'm in the back of my mind, I'm about ready to burst out laughing because I'm like,
mm,
okay, so you're literally going to take a baby doll and you're going to move it around the
mm,
house and you're going to talk to it and stuff. It's like, okay.
right. I hear. At the beginning, and when we sat down having a conversation, you were saying that how your observation is of how sad people are. Can
Yeah.
you, can you, because can you take this thought further and talk about your observation?
Oh my gosh. So that's one thing. So you can kind of tell our group out because we stick out like a sore thumb. We are joking, we are laughing, we are talking, we
Mm,
are literally um smiling all the time and just
mm,
it is
mm,
hysterical.
mm,
Cuz yeah, we're horrible to each other, but
mm,
in a
mm,
good
mm,
way.
mm,
But
mm,
yeah, so but the other atmosphere, you just feel like it's not even just like you feel it, but you just like there is just such a heaviness.
right.
Everybody is just straight-faced, going to the next seminar, and there's no joy within
Mm,
them.
mm, mm,
And which is really sad because us as Christians, we have joy.
mm,
We love the
mm,
Lord. Um,
mm,
we have the joy of the Lord, and these people don't. And so it's like they're scavenging and they're trying to find this joy, and it keeps coming up empty every single time. And it's just so sad. And it's kind of like they're blinded by that reality.
yeah,
And so they keep
yeah,
trying and trying and trying.
right. How do you react when people criticize you and also some of our other mutual friends in regard to the fact that we go to these places and we want to find out what's going on? What are the criticism? Let's just be honest. What's
Yeah.
the criticism that comes your way? Why do you think people are critical, etc.? How do you react to that?
For me, it's been like it depends on who I'm talking to in the
Mm,
sense because the thing is, a lot of people don't understand what we do.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that we're talking to people. We are also researching. We're finding out what the trends are going on within
mm,
here, what's going on. And a
mm,
lot of people do not understand. And like, it really depends on the situation you're in. We had a guy, first time, he was the first time coming and he was explaining to us some things that he was doing and trying to get the church involved, things like that. This
mm,
was during Burning Man last year, and he found out that the church is scared to go to these things. And we've kind of like, as a Christian society, we have created this barrier of not wanting to go and talk to these people because we're
mm,
scared of rejection. We're scared of all these things. And the thing is, these people need a Christian. They need somebody to talk to them. And the criticism that I get is they don't understand what I do. They don't understand why I'm going to these places. One of the things I talked to my dad about, my dad is not a believer. And so
mm,
he basically, when the first year I went, we got into kind of a heavy discussion. He's like, well, why are you even going to these places? Why can't you just leave these people alone and
mm,
let them do their thing? And basically, the best analogy is if you're going to see somebody, you're walking down this road and you see somebody that's in a burning building, are you going
mm,
to run over and pull them out? Or are you going to just walk by? Kind of like the Good Samaritan in the sense. Are you going to walk by or are you going to help him?
mm, mm,
And it's that situation. Like, I'm not just going to bypass this person. I'm going to go help them because I may be the first Christian that actually they encounter. And maybe they've had a bad rap with Christians. A lot of these people, too, that's really sad, is they've had a lot of religious trauma.
right,
Mm. And
right.
so they go from that religious trauma to the occult pretty dang quick. And so again, I may be the first Christian that they met, maybe even the like first real Christian
Mm,
that they've
mm,
actually met and had a discussion with. And so that's a huge impact. And so I'm not going to stand by and let them do Like, I'm not going to stand by and let them do their thing. I'm going to go talk to them. And yeah,
mm,
I get a lot of crap from it from my dad, or even um my coworkers, for example. Like, some things happen, I was like, I'm kind of trying not to say what I was doing, because I'm going to get harsh things from them because they don't understand. They don't have that
mm,
mentality of understanding
mm,
what I
mm,
do, and
mm,
that I care about others.
mm.
So, yeah, it really depends on the uh what is it? It depends on who I'm talking to, and are
Got
they
you.
actually going to be okay with this?
Mm. I'm not giving it away, but I would
Yeah.
actually say to you and to some of your other colleagues that actually by you going to these events with other dear friends of ours, it's actually helping you and equipping you to do your job even better. You have an understanding, but also if we are in a society where so many people want to deny that there is a fight between good and evil, they want to deny that. That fight ends up on our streets with people's behavior, and then people have to go and deal with that. So if we understand where that's coming from, that gives us a better understanding of what that's going on. And the simple thing, isn't it? We're in the biggest spiritual battle of our lives. We are in a huge spiritual battle, and that's what a lot of people deny. um what What was the highlight? I think you've alluded to something before we came on. There was something that happened there. So what was that? If you're able to speak about it, and what was the highlight?
So this was actually the craziest thing that had happened.
Right.
And God, and this is definitely God working this out. Um,
Mm.
so we got our group almost got kicked out. I'm just
Right.
gonna say that. Um, we had a person that remembered our group last time and was not happy that we were there.
Right.
So he ended up telling the event uh, people,
Mm.
the people who run the event, that Christians are here. And so we ended up finding out that it was reported that a Christian was yelling at somebody, which our group would never do.
No.
And um, actually, all four of us were together. There was also some investigating going on in this. And the more we dug, the more it seemed to just kind of come up empty. And they couldn't pinpoint who the person was, any of that. We were thankful to stay, but
Mm.
so we kind of think that it was a lie that
Mm.
had occurred, because it just kept coming up empty. And unfortunately, this person, we allude that this person basically told a lie to try to get us kicked out. Now, the cool part about this is, in the closing ceremony, right at the beginning, and it was reported it wasn't a negative, and it wasn't a negative, but basically the event coordinators or whatever told that there was Christians within our midst,
Mm.
and that we had, in the sense, the conversation and what they were kind of alluding to, it all
Mm.
changed. And so that was the biggest win, in the sense that we changed conversations that were happening
Right.
there.
Right.
We were changing a lot of things that were occurring.
Mm.
And people didn't know. You got 1,000 people here, and there's only a handful of people that probably knew that we were Christians.
Right.
So that was like the biggest thing, to find out that we made an impact, and that
Mm.
even just in the smallest little thing, is just talking to someone, you're making an impact.
I hear you. I hear you. Um I mean, they have criticised you for going there. They've criticised Carl for going to various events and other things. But it's the information that we come back on. And in this conversation, we've actually, at Burning Man, you've got the cathedral that they burn. And when you talked about grief earlier, that within the cathedral burning, people go in there and they put a message up of sadly friends, relatives who have died, and they're leaving messages and lighting candles and all the rest. That's going on at Burning Man. There are people trying to cope with grief at Paganicon. Then there is the Parliament and World Religions. There's people dealing with grief again. There is this searching for the one answer. There is only one answer, and that answer is Jesus. Unless you're in those situations, sorry to sound repetitive, then you can't point people in that direction at all, can you? You actually can't do that. And so why do you think Christians are afraid of going into those places? I mean, we're not. It's not about bravado. Got to be sensible. But why are Christians afraid to go into those situations?
You know what? It is when, and that's kind of really funny that you bring this up. So when I was growing up, and I was starting to research all these things, I wouldn't, I actually kind of kept it a secret due to the fact that I was getting criticism for it
Mm,
because I don't have, in the sense, I don't have a solid foundation enough and I'm going to be led astray.
right,
And
right.
that's one thing that a lot of Christians are afraid of is if they start researching these things, if they start, kind of getting to know these things, are they going to be led astray? But the thing is, you know what the truth is.
Mm,
But I'm researching this so I can talk to people. And you do get a lot of criticism for that, unfortunately. And so, and that's one thing I do think of is people are afraid of getting pulled away. You get told to
right.
stop doing these things. I actually this was not at Paganicon, but this was a conversation I was having with somebody, and uh, it was a Hare Krishna actually, and they started reading the Gita, and ended up basically a Christian took it away from them, started burning it, like stomping on it, all these things, and it's that kind of like a action, kind of really, and
Mm,
very dramatic in the sense,
mm,
but it's those kind of actions that will lead people astray, and they'll dive deeper into a different religion. But, now that I'm going sorry for the little tangent, but, um, the thing
tell me.
is, if you have a firm foundation and you know what the truth is, and
Mm,
you know that
mm,
what God's word says is true, then you're not gonna be led astray
mm,
in
mm,
this sense. You're strong enough to know, "Nope, wait, the Bible says this. This is a lie from the enemy." And the enemy uses the same old lies that he used in the Garden of Eden every single time. And it's basically, "You are God," and that's what you see at these things too. "You are divine, you are God, you can," basically, yeah. That's usually the ones that you see at these. And God is God.
mm, mm. No, thank you, because the criticism is really sad on one level. Well, no, on many levels, it's extremely sad because they actually don't understand, as you've said, why we've gone, and then we've literally tied up 3 or 4 different events, and they are they are linked. I mean, when we were at the Parliament in 2023, there, as I said, I alluded to this. There's this big push for magic mushrooms, hallucinogenic drugs, and all of this. And this is now, isn't it? It's now out there in the public domain, being made legal by certain states and all the rest. So that illustrates why we have to attend these places, because we're trying to find out what is going on again culturally, and the cultural influences that are coming against particularly young people. Is
It's
that
not even just that. Like, I'm literally when we were at the Parliament too. There was a huge push on the meat industry and how the meat industry is causing the ecosystem to be bad, and we need
Right.
to go to plant-based foods and all this
Mm,
things.
mm,
And I'm literally sitting at work and just eavesdropping on a conversation that my coworker is having, and literally it is the same thing, and apparently about how the meat industry is bad and that we need to start eating a plant-based diet. And I perked up and I was like, "What the heck?" And
yeah.
because
Yeah.
literally you're sitting there listening to this and I'm like, I heard this at the Parliament, which is
Mm,
insane. And now it is all over social media that
mm,
we need to be doing this.
mm.
Absolutely
So
insane.
there is this group programming going on, isn't this? I mean,
Mhm.
we have discussed this. We've discussed this with other friends. You know, whether that is out there like that through advertising, or a burger company saying, no, this is what we've got, or it's coming through film, TV, books, and all the rest. It's propaganda suggesting, which I would say to you is witchcraft, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah, I go to a lot of this and it is a bunch, and I love that you use that word propaganda because it is all propaganda.
Mm, mm,
It's it's crazy. And then they actually at Paganicon they have a free table and stuff. And you literally see flyers all over of for just like different events, different books, all these other things, and it's all just propaganda.
gender, right? But but in a awful, profoundly negative. Well, is leading people away from the answer. Is leading
Mhm.
people from away from that. Um, Christina, where can I don't know if you've written anything about this, but other colleagues have. Where and friends, where can people find the information out that talks about this event?
Well, I actually do write a blog about
Mm,
this, and I'm actually going through my um last year's because I'm about a year behind. um,
right.
but I'm going through last year's Paganicon and literally explaining what this is, what uh what paganism is kind of like going through, but I also am comparing to what the Bible says is
Mm,
true too. So I'm writing about this. There is also a wonderful gal who her name is Marsha Montenegro. She has a fabulous blog that has a ton of resources on different things about the occult. And because she actually was a Christian, or not Christian, but she was a very much into the occult
mm,
and very profound, and she actually became Christian. So she writes a blog about that, and I write about my journeys and what the Bible, different events and different things that we've encountered. So I've written about the Parliament and different encounters that we've had, and I compare what is being said, all the propaganda, all the lies, and to what the Bible is really being said to,
good
what
to
the
know.
truth is.
Mm. So where can are you publishing that blog? Where can they find it?
It is it's on Blogspot. It's called JC Files Apologetics, and anybody is welcome to go on there too. That is it's I think it's JC Files Apologetics at blogspot.com. I don't know it
Right.
on the top of my head, but yeah, it's a good resource too.
Mm, mm. Is um is our friend Stephanie writing about that? What about um Don's ministry of Midwestern? So can
Yep,
you
and that's perfect because Midwestern Outreach was there with us. There's
mm,
also Haven that I'm a part of that are
yep,
there, and so our friend Stephanie writes a blog, and Steph's been doing a lot of stuff with voodoo actually, and
right.
been writing articles on that. And which has been really cool as well. But yes, Dawn writes, basically does mid mid out Midwestern outreach. Oh my gosh.
Mm, mm.
And he has a lot of people that work on blog posts and articles. He recently just came out with one about the Book of Enoch,
Yep.
which is really interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, there's resources out there for sure for people.
And then, of course, there's Carl Tygroup's work, a dear friend as well. With Carl, Carl has been talking about that. He's been sharing some of those articles on his Facebook timeline when he's been talking about that, which is absolutely excellent. And of course, the Haven is Bill, isn't it? I'm assuming.
Mhm.
I've forgotten that. Yeah, brilliant. Um, Christina, thank you for your time. I'm just going to ask you if there is anything that you think that you have forgotten or that you would like to be able to mention as we draw to a close.
Don't be scared. Go talk to people. It's easier to be honest, it's easier to talk to people who are not your family, who
Mm,
are a complete stranger,
mm,
because the thing is they don't know you,
mm,
and you're able to just be yourself and basically have conversations with people.
mm.
It's easy. And
Well, I was going to say, as scripture talks about putting our armor on, that's important, but
mhm,
fundamentally, number one. But getting in there, because as you've alluded to, the people are so really so hurt and are looking for the real they're looking for the answer, which is Jesus. So yeah, no,
yeah,
Christina, just thank you for your time. It's really, really appreciated, and it's lovely to see you, and lovely to just be able to sit down and have this conversation, and to be able to join up the various adventures that we've had and that we've been having, and that there is a joined up writing to this. When I was mentioning at the Parliament, people divesting of oil, some witch walks in, and all the rest. These are all connections. This is a very heavy witchcraft that's going on that people need to be aware of. Christina, I'm going to play us out, and then stay with me, and then on the other side we'll have a chat, and I'll say goodbye. But the bottom line is this: I will say this: if you do not know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, sort that out, please. Either reach out to me, reach out to Christina, reach out to, if you've got other friends who are Christians, then that is the priority, and the priority in this hour. As Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." That's it, and that reflects on all these events that we go to. And there are some incredible conversations that we had. We ended up meeting people that are searching at Burning Man, having Bible studies and all the rest. I'm not trying to justify it, because the cultural changes, we see them and they are upon us. And unfortunately, very often the church wants to be in denial about that. Christina, thank you so much. I'm going to play us out, and we must do this again. Be really
yes,
good. All right.
yes.
Thank you for your time. Take care.